In 2011, the City Council of Berlin took a pretty brave and bold decision, and that was to convert the international airport of Berlin Tegel into a center for urban technologies, and not to sell the plots of land off to property developers as they could have done. So I'm going to talk about the future of this airport, how to put it to better use, and about the future of cities. And I say we've dreamed the dream of flying, and now it's time for a new dream. And our dream is to convert this place, Berlin TXL, into the ultimate park for urban technologies. The last session today, yesterday evening by Philipp already talked about the challenge of urbanization, and that we have already crossed the 50% threshold. That means 50% of the population of the world already live in cities, and that's on 2% of the world's surface. 75% of all resources are consumed in cities, but to take a positive side on things, 80% of wealth is created in cities. So what better place to start changing things and improving things? In the end, it's all about cities, but it's not only about urbanization, it's also about resource scarcity, it's about climate change, and the very particular German way of dealing it, the Energiewende, as you all know, and all the unresolved questions and challenges, but also about an aging society, and all of that is taking place in cities. And if we talk about smart cities, in the end, we are talking about urban technologies, because urban technologies are at the very heart, and urban technologies are in part what you guys are doing with your startups. You are very much in the field of urban technologies. And if it all comes together, then in the end, we make cities smart. We focus on energy, on mobility, recycling, and water, of course. Then we have two cross-cutting sections. One is materials research, because most of the innovations we've seen in recent years do come from innovation in that field. Think about new batteries, think about new membranes for water purification and other stuff. It's all about materials research. And then, of course, the IT layer, because without IT, all the infrastructures would remain as dumb as they are today. So it's all about smartening up the city. And it's big business. Some studies forecast a 4.4 trillion euro market annually on a global scale in only those 6 areas I've just mentioned. So it's no wonder that business is discovering this as a great business opportunity, although some are struggling a bit in the moment, but the mega trend is there, and it's very early days. We see smart city projects popping up all over the world. One of them is here, the Crystal, where we are today. And the most notable exception is Germany, the land of engineering. There is no lighthouse project currently. And we aim to be that lighthouse project to give urban technologies a home. Berlin is a pretty good place for that. Over the last 20 years, it has changed dramatically. It's become a science and research center. It's become the center of innovation of Germany. And even venture capitalists have begun to realize it. And in the first half of 2013, more VC investments went to Berlin than to any other state in Germany, even twice as much as to Bavaria. Now I'm going to talk about the airport as such. It's beautiful, actually. It's 70s architecture. I go back one slide. It's just gorgeous. We all love it. And it will be an airport for a few more years, but then 16, we expect currently, we will take over and make it a home for you. It's just 15 minutes away from the German government, the most important industrial nation of Europe. 15 minutes by car, 10 minutes to the city west. So it's very much at the heart of the city. It's surrounded by industry, by research, by universities. It's big. It's 5 square kilometers. That's 5% the size of Paris. It's huge. We've got, from the very beginning, 150,000 square meters. That's 1.6 million square feet of building stock. But in the end, it's not about quantity, it's about quality. And we've asked some architect friends, Graft, they're the favorite architects of Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie to take a look at Terminal D. That's a very boring building if you look at it, and convert it into an innovation center, a startup hub. We call it the base camp. And what they've done is beautiful. It's very light, it's innovative, it's modern, it's also futuristic, and I can't wait to move in. You are invited. Our vision is, in 20 years, to create an exceptional project, and we hope you will be part of it. We hope that the Ecosummit 2016 can be hosted there, and that some of you guys will form part of the 800 companies that we expect there, the 2 billion in annual revenues, and the 15,000 jobs that we want to create. So I leave you with a 90-second video giving you a better impression what it is about.
How will the people of tomorrow live? In the next 4 decades, we will create more urban space than we have in the last 4 millennia. We should build smart cities. Cities in which every rooftop absorbs the power of the sun, wind or rain. Perhaps someday, all aeroplanes will be fueled with sunlight instead of kerosene. Maybe streets will even store braking power. And when do you think we'll start teleporting? We'll make steel as light as plastic and plastic as sturdy as steel. We'll turn our plastic back into oil. How will we do this? By starting today. Berlin TXL. Think city, think future. From Tegel Airport, urban technologies take off. At Berlin TXL, ideas take flight. And from here, products find their way to markets. Startups meet academic research and industrial enterprises. Students meet engineers. New concepts meet years of experience. A tight network of universities, entrepreneurs, industry leaders and institutions. A learning structure, a system that reinforces itself. Here, the answers to tomorrow's challenges are developed today. Become part of the new Berlin. Let's work on the smart cities of tomorrow together. At Berlin TXL, the Urban Tech Republic in TXL.
Thank you.
I'm so glad that you're here. And are you very what do you think about the delay of the whole thing? Because as you know, this airport where he wants to create the future is still operating, and the new airport is not yet switched on. So what is...
More time for planning, I only say. I'm an entrepreneur myself. I built several startups, and when I took on this opportunity last year, I wasn't prepared for the amount of bureaucracy and processes that go into converting an airport into building land. So that will take another 2 or 2.5 years. So by the first quarter of 16, the earliest, we'd be ready to start building. Let's hope. I mean, I'm not Mr. Medon. I can't support him in finishing the new airport, but I know he's doing his very best, and so are we.
Do you have a question for Philipp? Knut?
Knut.
Berlin-based startup, eh?
One
of my favorites.
Can you send us a draft lease contract, first of all? And can you tell a bit of the price structure that you are difficult word, envisioning, and how flexible it might be, and can it be small? I mean, okay, we already saw that a hub for collaborative working, but how will it be in the first stage? Because we really like to be the first mover there.
Yeah, we've talked about that about a year or a year and a half ago, and they said sort of once you're starting, we are in. So thanks, Ecotricity. We have different segments. One is we sell, of course, certain parts to companies who want to build their own headquarters there or production facilities. So but for startups,
plots of land there. Yeah.
Yes, but only if you fit in from your profile. It's got to be urban tech. That's very important, and we are pretty sharp on that one. So, but for startups, it's very flexible. So we have recognized that it doesn't make sense for a young startup that's 3 to 5 people to squeeze them into a 2 or 3 year lease. So it will be extremely flexible. We start at very low rent, let's say 2 to 3 euros per square meter in the beginning, and then yearly it goes up. It's what you have to do to stimulate the whole thing. The bad news is after a certain amount of time, typically 8 years, you have to move out. But by then, hopefully you're big enough to build your own headquarter. So and then there's plenty of space to expand.
And what about the demand you already get for this whole thing? I mean, you are traveling the world and you are online, and how much demand do you get as of today?
The feedback is surprisingly good. Before we had the last delay, sort of shortly before that, we had a big number of requests coming in, and we had reservations on about 26 hectares. That's pretty large. So by the time we have a definite date, we expect sort of the demand to go up again. Mm.
And it's basically your lifetime project, right? Because
we are planning for the next 20 years, so it could well be.
You cannot develop such a big project in a couple of years. It's really super long term, right? As we have seen, for example, in Canary Wharf, right? I think they also
Canary Wharf is an example. Adlershof is another example. It took 20 years, but it became a huge success.
And how much mixed use will there be? Any plots for living, or only working there?
No, we will have certain plots where we include flats, about 2,000 in total. But it can't be at the very center. It's got to be at the fringes, not to interfere with production, of course.
Mm. Super. Another question for Philipp? Here.
Hello, Benjamin from Energy Deck. Are you looking to make the buildings or the refurbishments as energy efficient as possible as well, to set a leading example in that space?
Yes, where we can.
Does that mean where we can in terms of business model or return on investment, or is it because with the 1970s building you might have some planning?
Both. We might run into certain preservation issues. It's 70s architecture basically, and there are certain buildings that were never meant for, let's say, office use, and it doesn't make sense to insulate them. So it's just a hull basically.
Interesting thing.
Yeah. But the infrastructures, so final word, the infrastructures we are planning are top notch. So it's we are planning currently walkable infrastructure channels where you can swap supply, water, electricity. You can plug in sensors, take them out again, experiment. So it's a big lab in the end, a 5 square kilometer lab.
All right, thank you very much, Philipp.
Thank you.
Here you have a wonderful speaker gift.
Great, much appreciated.